we create new games, we think we want to create games that will last, let's say, 5 years for the forever franchise and can have some scale to be important business-wise. So let's say 100 million more a year.
Yaron Leyvan, you joined Zynga in May of 2013 as a director of user acquisition. It's almost the end of 2025, and you're still at Zynga, albeit not a director of user acquisition. You've made a couple of steps up, and now you're executive vice president of mobile studios at Zynga. What's the secret to enduring corporate life for 13 years in the same company?
Yeah, so if you asked me back then if I'm going to stay that long, I would never say that it would be, and if people that knows me would be surprised as well. So I think I had quite a journey. I changed the challenges and had great people to work with. So what I think kept me here is the people and the fact that I had a very interesting journey.
And talking about these journeys, like you've had a chance to work on multiple franchises, and I think after Frank joined, they have been called forever franchises. So I'm curious to hear from somebody who's been at Zynga for nearly 13 years, if almost like the longest tenure. What is a forever franchise? Like, what makes it a forever franchise?
So I think if you look back at what people thought mobile games can be, they thought it's kind of very short-lived, and then people would jump to a different experience. And we had a very different opinion about them. And we thought that games, and especially well-done games, and that if you keep them refreshed and exciting, can stay for a really long time. In fact, we have some games that have been here 16, 17, 18 years. So you can think about the longevity of those games. And with that, we think, okay, this is a much better experience for users. It's also a much better business model. So when we create new games, we think we want to create games that will last, let's say, 5 years for the forever franchise and can have some scale to be important business-wise. So let's say 100 million more a year. So if you think about our portfolio now, we have several of those. And when we create new ones, we are thinking that in mind on how the design, how the category can be here for many years to come. And I can say that it's working pretty well. And I think many of our competitors are thinking something similar.
So you mentioned that forever franchise, the basics is it has to last for at least 5 years at a impactful scale and has to bring at least 100 million in annual revenue. So we're talking about games that make $500 million in gross revenue at least. Is that what makes a forever franchise?
Yeah, I think that maybe other companies will have a different definition, but for us, we want them to be at scale that we think is important. This is why we are talking about that kind of size. And even more so that they can last and the experience in them can evolve to players that have been there with them for some time. And we know that when you play a game for the first month, the experience is very different than if you have played the game for 2 years. But we want that to continue to our players that love the game to still be very engaged and interested. And we have some games in our portfolio that this is as exciting as it was when we launched them.
How do you keep your teams not copying of what exists in the market? Because if you put in a specific sum, like let's say it's 100 million or up, and so now I'll go to top grossing and only look from here and up and basically take one of them and do the Zynga 70-20-10 and present you the case. Is that how you approach it, or what's the approach?
I think looking at the market is important. You can understand what resonates with player. You can understand what has some financial impact. But cloning doesn't work in entertainment. It doesn't work. So what you can understand is what categories you want to claim, what systems might be working for that category, and how you can get inspired. But if you are really wanting to get a break out, you need to find some things that people have not done. You need to maybe introduce something from one category to your category that haven't been done in your category, but maybe in gaming has been done, and tailor it really to your audience. And I think this is where we saw real hit, is when we have done that.
So cloning doesn't work. Does that mean that the approach that I think Pincus was very adamant about, the 70-20-10, so meaning proven is 70% of the game, better is 20% of the game, just looking at the features and overall, and 10 is totally new. So that was kind of like the mental model of Zynga. Do you still follow that, or is that something that worked before and you're not doing that anymore?
I think I like this is kind of an approach of like the proven better new. I think it's a good framework to work with when you introduce features. I think for new games, it probably will not apply in the same ratio. There's definitely a lot to be said about proven. This is where there's something in the market that players understand, which is, this is the first step of introducing something new. Do you think your players will understand it? Then whether they will enjoy it and how you can do it better than the market, and eventually bring something total new. But I think there is a difference between having that as a feature compared to building a new game from scratch. If you are trying to use that, it maybe will only work when the category is new, and definitely will not work when it's a red ocean.
100% agree. And actually, it makes a lot of sense to use that model in live operations versus new game development. Back in the days when 70-20-10 worked really well was when Zynga had a dominant position on Facebook. So they or you, or not you were that was before us probably, when they were able to basically come in and bully, early traction games by sheer size of the audience, and kind of take what they had and just do a little bit better. But in Red Ocean, yes, it's much harder. Can you talk about what are the sort of early signals that you look for in a game that could become a forever franchise?
Yeah, so I think our approach on new games is you can't re-engineer a hit. I don't think in entertainment it's something that you can have a formula and here is how you make a game. What you can have is signals that you are on the right path, and probably the signals are even more important to know that you're on the wrong path. And starting to understand whether one is a game that you create is a core game, the main reason why people come to the game. And we are really great, and I think the industry is evolving a lot on adding all of those whistles and bells around a core game and create more and more meta around it. But I'm a big believer that the core game needs to be engaging by itself, and it needs to work by itself. And if you put it in market and you try to do this, and you see that this is a game that people wants to go back to without all of the extra, it's a great signal. And if it's not, sugarcoating and adding more stuff and more systems to it will have a much harder journey to become something that people will play for years. I think our great team Peak have done.
Stay ahead of the competition with Sensor Tower, the trusted source for mobile marketing intelligence. Whether you're tracking trends, benchmarking performance, or scouting the next big hit, Sensor Tower delivers the data that drives strategy. Dominate the charts with Sensor Tower.
Game devs. Here at Heroic Labs, we know that great gameplay is what players love, but integrating metagame features like challenges, progression, and rewards is crucial for retention and monetization. But coding them is a tedious and time-consuming process. That's why top studios have turned to Hero from Heroic Labs. Hero provides a complete suite of battle-tested metagame features that are quick to implement, letting you spend more time on the core gameplay experience. Ready to ship fully featured, engaging games? Check out Hero today at heroiclabs.com.
Great example of that was Mad Factory. That we saw that first, the game is so well done without a lot of system and features. And in the past, we would want a list of, dozen features that to get out. We said, no, we are changing the approach and this is working really well. And we saw it in market, and then you can see if there is scale. And our new way, and maybe I'll finish with that question, that we want to, okay, let's see that the core is working. Let's see it's fun. So engagement, retention. And then we want to see that can it scale and can it stack, is our new way of trying to understand that as fast as you can get in the development.
The game has to stand by itself based on the core game. What are the KPIs that you're looking at when you're trying to assess whether the core game is working? Is it quantitative? Is it qualitative? Is it the combination of both? I'm really interested in that.
I think that a qualitative is good to help the designers tune their experience. And I think it's when you are really early on, when you have, an idea, it's all qualitative. You kind of describe it to people and try to understand whether you will think it's fun. And if not, how they can make it even better. And then you move to prototypes and say, okay, let me play around with that. Let's feel if it's good. And then good designers have a good feeling of what that experience should be without additional data. You can, we have a lot of gamers at Zynga, so you can leverage that ecosystem and ask them, okay, let's, widen the circle. Let's get more people in this. But eventually you need KPIs. Eventually you need market KPIs. And this is where I think the right balance that Zynga has been, because I think we have been the pioneers on leveraging data to make creative decisions. And balance it with, okay, it's not just science, there's art in making entertainment, is what we are trying to aspire to. But early on, it's much more qualitative, then it's more to qualitative when you get some data from the market, and eventually you starting at a soft launch, and it's much more data than anything else.
Can you throw in some of the KPIs that you're looking for? Is it like day 30 number, for example?
Eventually, we definitely want day 30 and the stacking to day 30. So it's not, we have learned that it's not the number, just the number itself. It's the weight is that number, the trend to this number. So let's say the retention of day 30 is 20%. It's good.
Yeah,
if it was
good.
Much higher before, let's say the day 14 was 40, and you can say, okay, it's still a really good number, but it's declined quite a lot compared to day 14 of 25 and day 30 of 20. So it's much less steep. So the people that are staying for longer. So you're trying to get that. And then obviously we get to day 60, and I think soft launch is somewhere around day 60, you start to get quite the confidence that the curves, the trends.
Got it. So you're looking at the curve and the trend of the curve rather than certain numbers.
You need both. Obviously, you need both, because you want to. But I think for indicative, what will be if I tell you just a number for day 30, it would be very hard to know what will be day 60. If I tell you the curve, the trend, you can be more informed.
And how much do you look at the marketability of the game early on? Is that because there's the LTV part, which is the retention part, and then there's the CAC part, which is.
So this is very hard. And I think it's very hard because what you want to do is not just what will be your CPI, it's what will be your CPI at scale.
Yeah.
Especially for the game that we are aiming to create, or the businesses you're going to do. So you have some market analysis to know that you are fishing in the right pond, that it's not too shallow. You want to do, first of all, to know that, and then you can do some market research, some category benchmark and stuff like that you can leverage. You can do some early CPI tests. Sometimes it's harder. Sometimes you can get some value. But I think what people use for soft launch, which is what we are kind of saying, after those early tests, whether it's the D1, whether it's farm, you start to get into a soft launch where you can understand the stack and scale. And this is a big part of the scale, is really understanding that and how you can take your game and estimate. And I think that we will, all companies will need to spend to do this. I haven't seen a company that have been able to really understand it or early on, or without some stress tests?
If I would have to say how Zynga makes their new forever franchises, is you start with a core game and it has to work by itself. The way you find a good core game is first people describe, essentially pitch to each other. This is an idea I'm having. If people like that idea, you move to a prototyping phase. In prototyping phase, you basically play test internally with people who are experts at gaming, whether they like this, and especially experts in that genre, since usually people are in specific studio that makes specific games. Like Small Giant makes puzzle RPGs, and Graham makes puzzle games, and Peak makes puzzle games, or Graham. Anyways, then you move to early testing, so going for KPIs. In those places, you have both target numbers, but you also look at the curve of the retention, not only if they're hitting that number, to understand the stickiness of the user base, rather than if the specific cohorts are hitting specific numbers. And for marketability, you do some early tests just to basically sniff probably the worst ideas, sniff them out, and maybe close them out early. And then real tests happen through scaling tests that are probably specific chosen markets where you go for specific size of the audience. And through that, you're understanding how quickly the CPI rises, and kind of look at overall from that project to what would be global launch.
A great description. I think the one recommendation I will give to other game makers is to focus on your core experience. It's not good enough. It needs to be excellent. And until it's excellent, focus on other features. And the same approach to if your first 7 days are not good enough, don't go and work on later phases in the game. Fix your D7. If not, you will regret it. It will be much harder to fix later. And we are quite rigorous in this approach.
Talking about like focusing on core features, Zynga uses this what we call, I don't know if you call it internally, but we call it a city-state model, where rather than having the centralized HQ that might be somewhere else in California that tells everybody what type of a games are doing, not far from your HQ, but you have studios that are usually come in through an acquisition, and they are quite autonomous, where they are focusing on a specific genre. So is that the model that Zynga operates now?
It's more than one model that works for people. I think for us, we are a big believer is that I think part of the secret sauce of making hit entertainment product is the talent that is in the different studios and the culture that they bring with it that created this unique. What is the reason that we wanted to partner with the studio? Is because we saw something that is unique and can add value to the rest of Zynga, and find something for the markets, whether it's Graham, Small Giant, or Peak. So all of them are quite different in some aspect, especially on how they think about innovation in their game and how they get to the feature set of the new game that they want to develop. So yes, we are definitely leaning into it, and we believe that we have core value that we want to have with all of the different studios, but we will share what we think and what we are seeing in other places. So you can think about a buffet of capabilities that the central team can help, but also learnings that we see from one another. And when the studio say, "Oh, I did this, it's very interesting," when we get to a great collaborative, people takes it instead of you need to push it. And it's much more powerful than this. Maybe it's making my life a bit harder and more complex, and things takes a bit longer. But if I shift to Take-Two View is very close to that as well. The labels are in the same, they are quite different. So Rockstar and Zynga or 2K have quite different approaches to things, and I think it's part of our strengths.
When you acquire these studios, they're usually led by founders at that point. And I think Zynga has made like 33 acquisition over its history. I forgot. I had the exact number when Chris Petrovich was on the podcast. So Chris headed Zynga's M&A. How do you keep the culture alive with these different studios? Because what often happens is after set amount of years, usually marked in a contract, the founders leave the studios that they have sold to Zynga. And now it's kind of like your job to keep the same culture across the studio ecosystem.
In the game of growth, everyone is looking for that power-up. Vibes is exactly that. It's built by industry people, so they actually get the challenges you're dealing with. As a result, they become the fastest growing gamified rewards platform out there. And the results are kind of nuts. With their AI-powered targeting, you're not just buying installs, you're bringing in the right players. And now they've got this new ROAS optimization engine, so your campaigns basically level up automatically. Vibes is built different. It's designed for growth. And I guess you could say it's powered by good vibes. Check out their DOF exclusive case studies by following the link in the description and go to vybs.co. That's vybs.co. Share your email and join the waitlist list.
I think it's a part of your life cycle. So you know that we also obviously have other games that have been here for a while and they have changed leadership from time to time. This happens. A good view on studios is that you need to understand not just the founders, but what they want to do. And some founders stays, but most, as you mentioned, decide to do something else after they're going to finish that chapter in the career and want to do something else. But this is not something you need to shy away from. You need to address it. And one of that is to understand, okay, what is a second layer of leaders of the studio? How you can identify, how you can empower them, how you can do that. So there will be a continue of that knowledge and experience going through the organization. And we have been able to do it multiple times because we are speaking with the founders on that very early on. I think it's part of the discussion that should happen. And all the founders that have, created that, studio, that business, want to see it succeed after they leave. Yeah. So they are definitely wanting to find the right way to do it. And I think you need time. You need to spend time with the team. You need to spend time with the founders. You need to help that organization evolve. And we have found that doing it, you just need more time. So don't wait if you are waiting for the last quarter to have that conversation, it will be very rough. If you have time to prepare for it, it's going to be smooth, but it's evolved. So it's not going to be the same. The company that had the founders and now that after the founders, the companies will be slightly different, but this is part of the evolution of all of the organizations.
Talking about evolution, Zynga has evolved quite a lot in being an acquirer. Like over these 30 companies, I think the first 20 acquisitions, there were quite many misses, but then towards the end, it was kind of like the hit show. Like you got the Gram games, the Peak games, Rolex, Small Giant, all really, really good acquisitions, but also really great integrations because those studios are doing very well post joining Zynga. So what do you think changed in the way Zynga has done integration of studios? Because that has been probably the most difficult part after the acquisition.
Yes, and I think part of it is that approach because we had a different mindset. When I joined Zynga, we were part of the social casino and we have focused on that a lot. And there was a lot of mandates of we need to add this and and the roadmap became not a game roadmap but an integration roadmap, and it doesn't really work for studios you want to onboard. One is they are here to make games and not to onboard a lot of SDKs, and the second, I think the market is moving and you need to move with it, and we have found that a push instead of a pull is not right. If the if the team wants to do something, they will do it in a great way. And we have changed the model drastically and say, okay, what is the minimum thing that we have to, because we're a public company, we have to have, so we have some legal, we have some cybersecurity and accounting stuff that you need to do, but those should be very few and not heavy for the studios. And now we have a lot of other things to offer, which is a very different, if you're saying we have things to offer, we don't have to think to mandate. We have things to offer to studio because we think it's valuable, but it's an opt-in for their experience. And it's taken a bit longer, but I think it's much stronger. And this mindset switch of doing that have created the dynamic. And as we had more and more experience with that, we have kind of crafted that experience to be as smooth as it could be.
But still, you must have to balance the independence of the studio with the benefits of scale. Meaning, like, sometimes you're sitting there in San Mateo and you know that if they do this, this will work. But at the same time, if I force them, that's against the culture and will break the sort of a promise that we have, that we've given the studios.
So it's a short-term and long-term balance. If they are thinking about something that add a lot of risk, I will step in. But this is very rare. The thing is that you think, oh, there's a better opportunity. Do collection in this way. Do a battle pass in this way. Here's the things that you should try on UA. Like, all of them are great and they have upside. But if you force creative people to do something your way without their desire, and they have been successful, if not, they were not there from the first place, is a much stronger bond and ability to get there. So this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Our games are here for many years. So understanding how you do this with them, how you kind of work with different leaders to get them to do what is best for their game, and they have great instincts. Again, this is why they're there. Is yes, but I find myself, I would do something different, but it's okay. I got to that point that you understand that it's maybe I didn't share the right information on the right timing, or maybe there's something else, but they are allowed to do that, and this is how we want it to be. And they are, in all of the things, there is trade-off. So we are the speed on things that you get your way is what we are paying, but I think it's a much stronger, and it will bring better results because they are often right on why they see the games. They know that the collection that you think is much better. Maybe they have a different reason why they want to prioritize something else before that. So, which is okay. It's very rare that you need to, no, we have to do it in this way. It's very rare that we have to do that.
So I've worked at HQs and I worked at satellite studios, like 10-hour time difference apart. And there's a very interesting cultural shift when you work at a satellite and you're talking to HQ, because HQ usually demands the time when you're having the call, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm curious of, how do you keep these creative studios that you have around the world far away from San Mateo? How do you keep them from feeling like they are satellites reporting to the HQ, but actually creative hubs?
We have changed the dynamic. And one, you should ask them, not me, but I'm biased. But I think part of it, you need to spend time. So I'm, as we speak, on Sunday, I'm jumping on a plane to go to visit, our guys in Social Point, Barcelona. And then I will be in Finland and then in London. So you need to spend time with them, because you want not just to have them report, you want to feel part of the team, to be able to provide help and understand the challenges that they're facing much better. And I am a big believer in, human interaction. Zoom is okay, but it's not great. So we need to do that. Second, I think that because we create this culture of studios have the dynamic with the studios, they are quite independent and they are able to pull information, but it's not that they have to do stuff in the same way of some other companies are doing it. We are seeing them for hub. It's a hub of creative. So we have a lot of studios in multiple places in the world. And I think if you go to Gram or Small Giant or Peak, they will say that they are Peak, they are part of Zynga and a part of Take-Two. And I think this is kind of the way that we do it, instead of, I'm a satellite of Zynga. I don't think it's a fun way to look at your job. And I think it's, yes, there are some reporting stuff that you need to do, but we are trying to fight that, so there will not be a, the headcount, the Borg that is saying, we know this is not the dynamic at all, I think.
I can attest. I've been to a few of your studios, and I don't even remember seeing a Zynga logo. I'm sure it was somewhere there, but it definitely felt like their own successful studio that they were running. And but regarding that, so you're servicing essentially the studio. What does your workday look like?
Because we have quite a lot of presence now in Europe, I think half of our business, our team. So my mornings are very busy, because we need to have conversation to see how we can help them, what are they facing. And it can be product, it can be marketing, it can be talent, it can be multiple things. As you know, there are, with a lot of people, there is a lot of things to deal with, and there is some discussion on opportunities and what is our focusing on, and trying to, first of all, understand if something is changed, if there's an opportunity or risk coming our way. There's a lot of discussion about what other teams have been doing and seeing success, and from direct to consumer to features to marketing. This is all something that we are excited about, and we are sharing. And this is kind of part of the value that we have created. Is that a lot of it is organic. That studio will speak with studio, and this is what I'm trying to cultivate, to make sure that the marketer in one team will speak with the other. The PM that have created, this battle pass will speak with another, and all of that is happening when we do it, and we need to facilitate that. So this is kind of a lot of that is happening, and obviously at the same time we have KPI, business, and the processes of we have a new game, we have all of that is always happening in the background. We have a few dozens of games that are live, so there are always something happening in one of them. Good or bad, it's always that opportunity to learn and try to share information.
How many of Zynga games do you play every week?
So I have new games that I test when they are, ready. So this is like more of when the game is ready with the big updates and stuff. I test it, and I sometimes I am more familiar with the categories, sometimes less. But by now, I think I play probably all categories. And then there are games that have like updates and something meaningful, or I saw a KPI, or I think it's very interesting features that they are launching, so I try to dive in. And then I have games that are, just trying again and again and again, just because there is so many, and some of them require like an hour a day to really understand the system. So you can't do all of them, but usually I get directed to, there's a new feature here that is doing well, or this is a new feature in testing that you should play because it's different. And so I'm getting those round, but it's quite a lot.
It sounds like a lot of fun in the beginning. If you're like, you get to play a lot of different games and different genres, from Natural Motion to Gram to Peak to rolling 200 games a day launched. But like at a scale, it sounds pretty crazy.
But the one that obviously I think in my and many others is time. You need to be very selective with your time and how you do it. So, but I get the feature very quickly now.
Mm-hmm.
There are systems and features are not. I once you see it, I kind of send the aim, and sometimes I play it. Sometimes they send me a video. So I can see the feature itself in video, which is maybe faster way for me to experience it. But I sometimes want to dive into the UI. It's work. So when you play all of the games, and sometimes I do find myself, because the games are quite successful, you wanted to play for them trying them for 10 minutes, and then you find yourself in an hour with them. It means that one, I spend too much time on them, but it's also something worked. Something worked well. So
so this is actually pretty interesting, because it's expected that you play these games. After all, they're the games of your company and you're responsible of the portfolio. At the same time, even though it's expected, rarely executives have time in their calendars to actually play. So do you take time from your calendar where you just block it out for gaming, or do you try to do it on your essentially whatever is left of your free time?
So usually maybe lunchtime is a good time to play some games if I don't have a meeting there, and then usually it's in the evening. Competitors games is where I would like to spend more time. I am usually here's a new game that you should test. And so I got a lot of information on what is up and coming, what is interesting, and then I dive in. I can just play random stuff. This is very hard for me to get to. But once I get, here's a new system, here's a new game, they've done something interesting. Yeah, it's definitely worth checking, and I because you need to know where the market is at. So whether it's your games or the competitors.
Yeah, it's challenging, especially since there are less games launching and more innovation is coming in live ops or marketing, and it's kind of not the same. You can't just pick up the game and play it for an hour. Oh, interesting new game that launches. No, it's like an end game feature that came through and is actually increasing the revenue. So that is the challenge. If you're not deep in the game, you can't even test it. Huh. Okay. No, I'm just curious how executives find time to play games because of your crazy calendars. I wanted to ask you about Zynga's evolution over the years. So I think you've mentioned there's kind of been like 3 different Zyngas. There's the early crazy startup Zynga of meteoric growth of Mark Pincus. Then you have the pivot Zynga, the painful stage of Facebook gaming dying, and you have to go on the new platform, and it's mobile is growing, but you're not finding success right away. Stock market was not treating Zynga kindly during those times. And then you have the Take-Two era. So essentially just going through that painful pivot, finding success, going through this massive exit, and now being part of even a larger corporation. How do those phases felt from inside of the company? I think especially the phase 2 and phase 3 is where you've been most of your career at Zynga.
Game devs. Here at Heroic Labs, we know that great gameplay is what players love, but integrating metagame features like challenges, progression, and rewards is crucial for retention and monetization. But coding them is a tedious and time-consuming process. That's why top studios have turned to Hero from Heroic Labs. Hero provides a complete suite of battle-tested metagame features that are quick to implement, letting you spend more time on the core gameplay experience. Ready to ship fully featured, engaging games? Check out Hero today at heroiclabs.com.
I joined what I call Zynga 1.0 just at the end of it. It's after went public, still very massive on Canvas and Facebook, but mobile was in the air. We had a lot of business on Canvas that was declining, and we haven't got enough traction on mobile. So this was quite stressful. And maybe the learning from that phase was focus. And we needed to go from, we want to be on mobile, we want to have less bets, but fully fund them and have those kind of well thought ideas and projects. And then we shifted with the help of Frank and the team to do that, and saying, here's our forever franchises. This is what we're going to focus on. We are really good in data but maybe has been too much with that, and we needed to bring, create some space for the art in the arts and science dynamic, so we can see what the players wants, long term, not just short term optimization. We have made sure that every investment that we do is in our area of strengths, and we know that we have the capability to execute before we add another one. So we kind of had that team after team and project after project analysis, and started to get back to growth from our organic ecosystem and organic portfolio. And then we started to add new studios and new games, whether we create them or we acquire studios. But we did the same kind of thought process of, okay, we want to pivot for everyone need to be a Zynga, but let's find teams that are right to be added to this new model, which means they need to be a bit more experienced. They need to be able to be independent to some extent. And we found several, and it's kind of worked well, and we refined our way of working with them, which, we've seen quite a lot of success, and kind of pivoting to kind of the Take-Two area, or maybe the Zynga 3.0, that is being, I think we wanted to get to a larger scale. I think it was important. I think it was at the time that we needed that to be able to support all of the things that we want to do. And Take-Two was a perfect partner with that, as they are seeing a lot of the values in the way that we see with innovation, with efficiency, but also with how you work with the labels and how you create this space for creative to flourish. And it's okay to have to make a mistake, or if you learn from it and work with it. And I think this kind of was the environment that we didn't know, until you tried, and now we are in. I can tell you that this is probably the things that have been so great in this experience was exactly that the culture and the values were so close between the two companies, and this is kind of two big companies that are partnering together. It's not an easy thing, and most of those fails. And I think when you see that, you see that a lot of the talent is here at Zynga. And I think it testify that it went well.
Yeah. I was at Zynga for I think it was 2014 to 2016, the pivot years. And I could say from my perspective, it was pretty wild. I think I went through 3 CEOs, 3 division heads, and maybe 8 direct managers. So the speed of pivot was tangible at the at the game making level. But I wanted to ask you, since you've been through these phases and being in this position, do you have any lessons that you can draw from the hyperscale, from the pivot stage, and from this sort of a mega corporation stage? Some lessons that you could share?
I think that the early on is when you think about when things go well, you can quickly think that everything that you do is great, and it starts to spread itself very thin when you don't have talent. And this is a recipe for an issue in a few quarters or a few years. I think many companies are over hiring, and then have the reverse effect after that. But it's not just that, it's also that you are losing focus. And I think part of this, when things go well, double down on focus. Making sure what you want to do. You can be very aggressive in them, but I will still make sure that this is kind of what you want to do, because now you have the ability to do it, and you have more funds and things going well. So you're going to have a lot of trust. But I think this is where the time that you focus is important. It was true then, it was true during COVID. And I think it's in general something that I value a lot. I think that maybe the second, the thing of 2.0 with Frank is just understanding that if the fundamentals are not working, there's no reason to build on it. Until a forever franchise has all of the things to make it successful, from team to process to the marketing side of it to the designers. You can't really get a success, and we have went very deep, all of them. So you have seen a lot of changes, and part of that was experience to get there. Is we said, okay, we want to get our best assets, the best product that we have to be on the right trajectory, and this was part of that transition. And it took some time, and you can do them all at once, but I've been deeply involved in all of those kind of steps at some time, and it's not always pleasant, but this is I think was very much needed to get to wanted to be the top performer on live operation. And I think it starts with we have to listen to our players. We want to know why they are playing our game, and for audience like we had with our game, many of them have been playing for many, many years. You want to find a way that you can delight. And this kind of one thing that I thought that we had players that played 89 out of 90 days. So you look at the last 90 days, how many of the things that you do other than sleep and eat, you do 89 out of 90? Very few. So they know the game inside out. I want to keep them surprise and delight. And we really push this. We really push that we want the game to be fresh. We want the game to be interesting. Let's start with the people that have been playing for this year, for the game for many, many years. And then kind of, okay, now what we do is for new users, for returning, all of those kind of stuff. But you need to be very kind of deliberate in what you want to do. And we did it game by game and a team by team. And the learning probably was with Take-Two that is to understand culture fit more than anything else. Really spend time on how things will go when you don't see eye to eye. And yes, when early on everyone is happy, but you really want to know the dynamic. We want to do this with when you hire people, you want to know that when you do a studio acquisition, and you definitely want to be as part of this dynamic when you're on the other side of it. But I really understood how important it is.
Have you had the chance to read the book by Kim Nordstrom called Up, Down, Up?
I don't think so.
I was just thinking about that book, and it's weirdly enough, I don't think he interviewed anybody from Zynga, but the whole book Up, Down, Up kind of describes Zynga in some extent, like more than anything else. And he had a really, really interesting quote. I'm quoting him. The first clue that a company has peaked often comes with a hubris. There's a level of arrogance that comes with success, a feeling that you're invincible and that you can achieve anything you want. And that's kind of what you're telling is like in the beginning of the phase, it feels like you're winning. Now we can just multiply. Instead of making 10 bets on goal, let's do 100. Let's expand. Let's try everything. There's no platform we can't win. Hell, we'll build our own platform.
I fully agree with that. You have the notion when you are on the defense, very much understanding. I have to do something. I'm focused on how I do things, what I don't do, what I do. But when you're winning, you start to have that reaction. Okay, I can do this, and you have now more options. You have more trust with your investors. You have all of that kind of going with you. But it's not a good thing. You need to be. That is a time to be focused. That is a time that you to go and say, okay, with that, I can go play offense. But I want to choose it because you will get a lot of suggestions from everywhere. And all of them might be some kind of a good idea, but as an aggregate, they are not. And this can definitely have been our experience. And when we kind of went back to our fundamentals, it's starting to really go back to be healthy again.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to take your beating before you start learning. Every company has.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the current market. So you've referenced it to being as a red ocean. It is very mature. Players are very hard to surprise, let alone delight. How do you think about risk taking in this type of an environment?
So I think it depends if you are talking about a new game or a live game.
New game.
If you want to enter a space, will need to innovate. We'll need to have a very clear understanding why this is different than another game that I'm playing or I've played in the past. Why should I give it a chance? And changing art and adding another mechanic is not enough. We're not in that space anymore because all of our players have played game before and they have played, if it's in the same category, they have played your competitors. So you have you need to find a reason why you can explain it. And in fact, because of the attention span of our, players now, you need to do it quite fast in the experience. You can't say, in the day 30, you will understand why I'm different. You will not get that. They will churn way before that. So, but what I do think is that the things that goes for, if you think about the experience that we had in games 10 years ago, it was for casual games, it was extremely flat. It was really hard to introduce complex systems and features and experiences to our players because they had a hard time understanding it. Try to find now a game that doesn't have guilds, team versus.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's all of that kind of different systems help people understand. So I find it quite exciting that you can add in all of the categories and mesh the systems and stuff with each other because the ability for our players to kind of comprehend that and get, okay, it's fun, is much better now than it was before, which opened a lot of avenue for innovation.
Launching new games is hard, so there's a lot of failure. What role does a failure play in Zynga's innovation process today?
So I think what we are trying to get to is to get, fail fast mentality, is to get something that you can understand whether it's resonant with players. And as we said, starting with the early core game, and then you kind of go deep in the experience. But the point on failure is that you want to understand why. More than anything else, what didn't work? Can we pivot and do something else? Or we know this idea is not, we can't really fix it and we go next. And what I think that now is much more healthy dynamic with all of the studios is that most, if not all of them, the last, year and a half, the game that we makes quite a lot of prototypes and early games that you guys are not even seeing because it stopped way earlier before it's going to market to software and stuff like that. But the game team, the game that is working on this new game, say, you know what, it's not good enough. It's not fun enough. It's not whatever I can't scale it, or I can't. It's too nichey. They get to that decision by their own and say we need to move. Compared to another dynamics that you say, you know what, you didn't hit the bar, we cancel the project. And because we got to that dynamic, and they know that when they learn and they do good things, it's not they're losing their job. Then it's a much more intellectually honest discussion with them, even among their own team, before it even get to me and to others, is to get that dynamic. These others have a good chance. Let's move. Let's pivot. Let's maybe start something from scratch.
That's a beautiful theory. It sounds kind of like Supercell-y in a way. But how do you, in practice, achieve that? Because in my experience, both being as a game developer or a studio head, the teams fall in love with their own games. And oftentimes, they don't understand the broader market. They don't maybe understand the competition as well. They don't want to understand the user acquisition part as well. Or they as they should, refuse to give up and always come up with new things. But even like in a Supercell's case, where at least in their PR, they talk about how the teams make a decision. And today, actually, they announced that Squad Busters has been killed. And the CEO was promoting, this is great because the team decided not to move forward with the live operation. But at that point, they already spent $200 million on marketing. It's like the team can make the call, but in the end, it's the executive that takes the hit if they launch the game that doesn't scale.
I will describe this as our dynamic at Zynga. I think for new games early on, I think I definitely would prefer the team to get to the decision. When we want to push and scale stuff, we need to see that the KPIs are there. If not, we will never not launch this. This is too risky. So there's a difference between, oh, I have a concept. The concept is fun. I believe in it. And then after a couple of months, I see that it's not what I thought. Then yes, you can kill it. And I think that there's no way that anyone from Zynga can make you fall back in love with the game if the game team decided they are not there. I agree with you that there is more time than not is that the team wants to give another chance and try something new. But if you go to a healthy dynamic with them, maybe they, I think that the likelihood of that new stuff will not be high, but they spend another month on it. They learn from it. And then they understand, okay, it's probably was a mistake not to do it before, but we'll do it now. And they get to that. When you go to soft launch and start to go worldwide, this is not a gut feeling. This is based on data. This is a business decision that can have a big outcome. So this is something that we all do with a collaboration, with the studio, with marketing, with finance. This is kind of a different dynamic. I think when a game is live, it's obviously a different discussion. But I was referring to the early prototype, D1 test, somewhere around there is definitely more, oh, we thought it's going to be fun. Oh, we don't think it's more, or the data doesn't tell it's fun.
So basically, when the investment from the studio side is limited, you give the team freedom to explore, to expand on their ideas, to test, to quantify, and so forth, and to make that decision, hopefully, where they decide to move to another game if they feel that this is not progressing or evolving as it should be. But when it comes to actually big decision, which is launch, global launch, that takes a lot of stakeholders, a lot of other teams, huge investments from the company, then that can't be anymore a decision of the team that is independent, autonomous, and they believe in it. So we're going to give them the free space to spend a couple of $100 million to see where this lands.
I think this is obviously want the team to think that they are ready and believe and pitch that they are ready to go worldwide. But it's not just that. We have a lot of things that we want to make sure that we are well positioned for. Early games, you can say, okay, if you could have stopped a project a couple of months before, I think you get more learning. It's significantly better environment if the team get there for early stages.
I remember having Javier Ferreira, CEO of Scopely, on the podcast, and he was also talking about that I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically saying that the most toxic behavior in a studio would be the type of a studio head that goes into a side and says to the management, don't talk to us, we're concentrating, don't bother us, like we're doing our own thing and you can't talk to us. He's like, that is not okay at the company. Like, you have to be open, you have to be willing to take feedback, and if you present those type of values, you're not going to be driving games in this company. I
think it's for depending on the stages. I think that for early on, I will accept it. After that, find what is fun. Okay. And usually I will kind of sniff around to kind of see how they progress and how they are compared to what they thought it would be and stuff like that. But this is a time that they can have, there are 5 people in a room trying to figure.
You're busy. You have a couple hundred other games that you need to be watching at that point. Mandatory question. Zynga and AI. What's the situation?
Apps Flyer, where your app's potential meets performance.
Web stores. You've seen what good looks like, but have you seen great? AppCharge is the direct-to-consumer platform backed by the likes of Supercell and built by monetization pros from Moon Active, Playtika, Huge Games, and others. People who know the difference. AppCharge powers over $500 million in transaction a year for top studios, optimizing every detail. Deeply personalized web store offers custom-made design, industry-leading monetization features, in-game payments, SDK, and more. 70% of top grossing games already have a web store, but the ones scaling fastest, they're doing it with AppCharge. Learn more at appcharge.com. We believe that AI can create quite
is a quite a useful tool for game makers, other things as well, but for our industry, for game makers to accelerate stuff, to open doors on things that we couldn't do because they were too expensive to explore really early on. So you can think about art style and stuff, all of that kind of stuff. It can help take an analysis from 0 to 80% very quickly, but then you need the rest. But it saves quite a lot of time, or you can do more. So the view, all of the things that I have shared are examples of things to make us more efficient, maybe open some doors that we are not been able to do that before. We have quite a lot of attempts and tests going on all of the different disciplines to try to leverage this new tool. But I will categorize it still as a tool.
Well, Strauss Zelnick has also come through and made some very interesting comments on, if AI would give the type of a production boost that is promised, he would definitely be using it on the type of games like, Grand Theft Auto with $1 billion development budget, but just not there yet. So that was some paraphrasing his comments earlier this year.
Yeah, I think it shows promising initial results. Can I tell you that it's all, all the hype is already there? No, it's not. We are not saying, the ability to be 80% better than we have done before. Yeah. This is not even close. But we are seeing pockets and things that we can do better, and I'm sure that there will be more. And if we see that, the good thing at Zynga, and I think it's safe too, it will spread out very quick. People who want to see, they will hear about success, they will see about something that someone is doing differently and better, they will jump on it and try to find a way to leverage it as well. But it takes time. We wanted to get to full usage around all of the different studios. I don't think we're there. I don't think the market's there. Maybe marketing is a bit ahead. Maybe creative and marketing, stuff like that. But it's still early.
And you're in the heart of it, in Silicon Valley. Like that's where
all
the it's
we are testing a lot. So I want to be open. And we are testing a lot of different, whether it's vendors, things that we do here inside the company. So we have a lot of different ongoing tests and trials and stuff like that. With AI companies and with our tools, and we will continue to have them. And I'm pretty sure that the tools will be better and better. And in this, they are growing quite rapidly, which is good. And I think they are going to be specific niche that they get some jumps and saying, "Oh, this is very effective for that, and this is very effective," and we'll continue to use it.
So, practical, sobering approach to this new tool that is developing fast.
Yep.
Right. Last thing, I got 5 rapid fire questions, if I may ask.
Let's go.
All right, Yaron, let's go. Number 1, hardest decision you've made in your Zynga career of 13 years?
So I think the harder things that I had to do as a manager, as a leader, is to let go teams that are, or people that are good at their job. And as you mentioned, we had multiple times, some were better, some less so. I think that if we get to a point that we need to let good people go, we usually did something wrong. And if you plan better, you don't need to do it, and you take maybe an unmissed risk, and you can do it. Obviously, this is for good talent. If they're not good talent, it's a different story. But for letting good talent go, it's definitely the hardest thing that I had to do.
Fun fact, my first week at Zynga, I had to let go people that I didn't even know. That was not nice. Anyways, pivot years.
I'm very happy that we are in a position, and we have been from COVID, after COVID. Now we were in a good place that we hadn't had to do that often compared to our peers.
Hardest thing, I agree. One thing that Zynga does better than anyone else?
I think we balance the data that we get from KPIs and all of the things that we have been really good at excelling at, and listening to our players. So to get the data and the science and art is something that we have to, because you have so much data. Like this is like something that we are not speaking about, but you get an enormous amount of data in mobile games. And just relying on data is not sufficient to create an entertainment product that will last. The ability to find how you want to innovate, how you go with gut feeling of your designers and product people, and finding that data that help you with that is, I think, something that we are really doing well now.
Third one, most underrated trait in a great studio leader. And you have a lot of great studio leaders working with you.
Let me think about that one. So I think maybe the ability to listen, to be with high EQ for your team is something that you want someone with, hunger and push, and you want, yes, for sure. But in order to be effective and not just, strong, they need to feel the team. They need to understand when is the right time to push, how to push, and be open to get that information, people to feel comfortable enough to go to them. And I think this is probably the one that is maybe underappreciated, but I have seen, well, let's say like the great leaders, the great studio leaders that have that ability. And they have different ways of getting it, but they all have the ability to listen.
Number 4, if you could send an SMS or an email to yourself back in 2012 when you joined Zynga, what would that email or message say? It can't be about crypto.
Embrace the change. Don't fight it. And I think in life, we found ourselves very often going back to, oh, I did it in one way. I want to make it work now in the same way. When the dynamic change altogether. And I think embracing it, instead, don't fight it. Think about, okay, with very, deliberate way of thinking and say, things has changed now. How do I take the stuff that are still applicable from what I've done, but also get to the things that are not really relevant anymore and change them? And don't fight it. And I think my instinct definitely was, and I think me as well, is to fight those changes. Instead of saying, this is a change. This is how we do things now. Let's lean into it.
It's always easier to say, this is how we always done. Why do we have to change it now?
And it's take a while until you get, but you need to be quite comfortable in yourself to do that, because you are relying on things that you have done before, and this is why you got you to where you got, and saying, no, this playbook is not relevant anymore.
All right, final one. Zynga in 2035. What do you hope people will say about the company then?
So 10 years in gaming is quite a long period. But what I can tell you that I would wish us to be, we would want to be, and I would want us to be, the destination for talent and the destination for our players, that our product is the destination of our players. So if you think about if you want to be in tech, you can be wherever. If you want to be in gaming, we should be your destination. And if you want to play a game, I hope that our portfolio will be as exciting, if not more, than what we have now, and you will find something great for you to try.
Well, Yaron, on that note, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I truly thank you for bringing all the knowledge from 13 years at Zynga. I mean, you're driving quite the portfolio and quite the diverse group of different studios around the world, making games that are played by hundreds of millions of players every day. So thank you so much for sharing your your story of Zynga 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, and especially how you approach new game development, live ops, and culture.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
All right. And thank you very much to everybody who listened. And to connect with Yaron, you can find him on LinkedIn, but he probably won't have too much time with all the studios and all the games being launched. So check out Zynga, a destination for talent and players. So on that end, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructoroffun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.